Hello, and welcome to swan identification for trumpeter and tundra swans and other swan species observed in Washington State. I'm Martha Jordan, and we're going to go on a quick tour of how to identify our native trumpeter and tundra swans, as well as other swans that visit. So please download a copy of our swan and goose identification brochure that is available at northwestswans.org. Again, it's nwswans.org. It's helpful in the field. We have a copy that's a recent print copy. It's the same brochure, but it's in color. So trumpeter and tundra swans, how to tell them apart. See a tundra swan on the left, trumpeter swan on the right. So differentiating trumpeter swans from tundra swans is somewhat easy, but maybe it's simple would be a better word. So what we have here is the trumpeter on the left side upper, and it has a V-shaped feather pattern at the top of its bill. It never has yellow on the lower, or extremely, extremely rare. It also has a red line on the mandible down here, and the back line of the bill from the eye to the back of the lower bill is a straighter edge. It has a curve, but it's pretty straight. The tundra swan, on the other hand, has a rounded forehead of feathers, yellow on the lower most of the time, and it can vary in size. The back line of that bill is going to be kind of a curve, and then it makes a straight edge coming down. So it's the bill line is bent. It also has a concave shape to the top of the bill and a much rounder head versus the angular angle of the tundra on the left. Looking at the bottom, you'll see front-on pictures of a trumpeter swan over on the left side and a tundra on the right, showing that characteristic. Here is a life-size drawings or to scale for this presentation of a trumpeter, a tundra, and a snow goose. The snow geese are always going to have this pink bill with a black grinning patch, and they will always have black wingtips. Again, we have the bent line back here with the tundra and the more curved line with the trumpeter. So here are some tundra swans showing the variation in bill markings. And tundra swans, while it may seem easy, they are one of the more difficult species to really look at because they have such a wide variation in their kind of head and bill shape. So on the bottom here, we have red line on the mandible. Yes, 15 to 20% or more of tundra swans do have a red line on the mandible, and they have yellow on the lower. The middle bird is very typical of our tundra swans, which it has yellow on the lower and no red on the mandible, just yellow on the lower and an all black bill, but they all have this round head, and this concave bill. The top bird has no yellow and no red, but one of the key characteristics here is the eye is distinct from the bill, as it is in all three of these birds. And the back line has got that line coming down, and then it drops straight down. And it has a bit of a curve here in the bill. So these are all tundra swans. Tundra swan, adult versus juvenile. Here's an adult trumpeter swan on the upper left. And again, on the lower left, we'll see tundra swans with a juvenile in mid-December. They are this lighter, brighter gray. They also have black at the base, black at the tip, and kind of, or pink mottling, if you will. And over here in mid-January, the tundra swan juveniles begin to turn all white in the body, much, much lighter gray than a trumpeter ever would. And again, they will have these darker gray, but it's still a light sooty gray. They will also be getting a yellow on their lores. At this point, it will turn from white to yellow. And again, you can look at what it's associated with, size difference. This is a one of these really concave tundra swan bills. Tundra swan adult, again, yellow on the lower, concave bill, that back line coming, and then has an angle, round head. In flight, here they are compared to a pintail duck. Tundra swans weigh about 15 to 20 pounds and have a wingspan around 6.5 feet. And they have a very distinct call that will differentiate them from any other swan species. So that will be this. It's a high-pitched kind of sound. The tundra swans note individual variation in bill and size. Again, just trying to show you a juvenile bill here in the upper photo with this heavy pink coloration and these adults. And notice the wide variety of yellow on the lower. Some have red, some don't. Again, wide variety of size difference in tundra swans as well. They can be tall with skinny necks, or they can be shorter with thicker necks. And again, size differentiation between the sexes as well. Here they are in a display and a camaraderie. Tundra swans will stick their necks out, sometimes at a 45-degree angle, and call and communicate. Trumpeter swans have a very different way of communication. But also notice here on the far right, a tundra swan juvenile with a very pale gray head and neck and a nearly all white body. And their feet are all black. Both juveniles and adults have black legs and feet, but the juvenile tundra swan legs and feet turn black in late December. Here's tundra swans when communicating, extend their necks out in front to call, versus the trumpeter swan, which will bob its head and neck up and down. Tundra swans, just noting the variation in color and what you see over here in the lower left, wide variety of styles and of yellow and some of the shapes and sizes of the birds. Trumpeter swans, adults, they have a very angular head, a very straight kind of profile. The bill and the eye are not distinct. They have a very straight back line to the bill between that and the mandible. They do have a red line on their bill. They all have the red line, but a very angular head compared to a trumpeter. And their body is kind of very similar. Trumpeter swans weigh between 25 and 35 pounds and have a wingspan of about 7 to 9 feet, depending on the size of the bird. Here's an adult and a juvenile, just really classically different. Adult trumpeters, by the time they're 3 years old, have all black feet and legs. Juvenile trumpeters, this is a first-year bird, dark sooty gray, a classic black at the base and pink mottling the rest, but their legs are really characteristically this yellow-black mottled coloration, and that stays throughout the entire first year and gradually turns all black by their fourth year. Dark sooty plumage in the trumpeter swan juvenile, classic bill. You can look at the legs here, they're yellowish, they're not black. That's a key characteristic. And again, this dark sooty gray. Juvenile swans, trumpeter versus tundra. Here's a classic picture that was taken in Washington of the two together. Again, this classic dark pinkish all the way. The tundra swan is beginning to turn all black. The head is round, the eye distinct from the bill. It can appear more distinct in the trumpeter swan at this age, but notice that color of dark sooty gray, especially on the head. And this tundra swan is a light, bright sooty gray and has black legs. in the gray coloration. Trumpeter swans do not have that. Here are some classic trumpeter swans in the early part of the season. Classic leg color here, a dark sooty gray, the pink in the bill, and then in February the juvenile legs are very mottled, but they begin to have a little bit lessening of the sooty gray, but they're still a darker sooty gray. Their voice is absolutely definitive and can be heard for more than a mile away. So here is a contrast between an adult trumpeter on the right and a juvenile on the left. You can even see the leg color, but this will happen through the whole winter season. Trumpeter swans can be various sizes, and it can be deceiving in the field when you're looking at them. So do not depend on size to look at whether it's a trumpeter or a tundra. This is a pair, the big male here on the right and a female on the left. And they are substantially different in size, but both are trumpeters. Look at that back line, the V, the head shape, everything about them is trumpeter, and they both vocalized when we saw them in the field. So here is the behavior of trumpeter swans, which bob their heads up and down more frequently, and that's the greeting that you'll see in the head bobbing, classic trumpeter swan behavior. So here we have some contrasting comparisons of the trumpeter swan is on the left, walking on the ice. You can see that very angular head, eye, not distinct from the bill, the back line, all black legs. Again, on the right, we have two tundra swans, the round head, yellow on the lower. That line is still this angular, very different bill shapes between the two, but that's very classic, but the eye is distinct from the bill. And these are smaller birds than the trumpeter on the left. Down below, we have the same birds, but they're swimming. Again, you can really see the difference in those head shapes, and the size of the birds is quite different. So, trumpeter or tundra? Take a look. What are the classic characteristics? Look at the head. And then what age are they? So we have a tundra swan at the top, two trumpeter swans below, and they're all adults because everybody has black legs. So which swans are these? Total number and how many juveniles? Because in the field, you're going to be needing to count the birds. So just count all of the birds. So we have a total of 9, and we have 5 adults, which are the white ones, and the dark gray are the juveniles. So the dark gray are the ones that we really count as juveniles in our swan counts. So who is who here? Trumpeter swans, Canada geese, and snow geese. And the snow geese in this case are adults and juveniles, so they may be a little deceiving. But remember that snow geese all have black wingtips, and you can see the black on their wings very clearly in both these photos. So we have a trumpeter swan here, a trumpeter swan here, snow geese, juvenile snow geese, and Canada geese. Same through here, and you can really see the size difference of the swans versus the geese. And then you're going to have at times when you're out identifying swans in the Skagit, in particular, when you hit the potato fields. Massive amounts of potatoes, lots and lots of swans, and they're just eating the potatoes, and you're going to see muddy heads. So you really can't tell the color of the bill or whether this animal has yellow on the lower or not. But just look at the adjacent swans and enjoy the sight and sounds of swans slurping mud and potatoes. Trumpeter and Tundra Swan, who is who and what age are they? So take a look at this photo and tell me which swans you see here. So in the background, we see two large swans, and we look at their bills and there's no yellow. We see the V forehead, and we see the eye is not distinct from the bill and it's very angular. So the swan on the right, far right, and in the back are trumpeters. And the two swans in the front are clearly tundra swans with yellow on the lower, eye distinct. They're smaller. And this is a classic tundra swan color late in the season with the darker kind of head, gray, and an almost white body. So what other swans do we see in the area of Washington, Western Washington, in the winter? We could see Bewick swans, which is a tundra swan, but from the Eastern Hemisphere, meeting Europe. They are the same shape and size as our tundra swans. They have a lot of yellow on the lore. Even the youngsters do. Their colors are exactly the same. They sound nearly the same, but are a little bit higher pitched. And compare that now with the Hooper swan, which is, for all intents and purposes, the same shape and size as our trumpeter swans, but they have a tremendous amount of yellow on the bill and on the underside of their mandible. The juveniles are the same gray color, dark sooty gray, but they will have white, as you can see here on the right, on their bill, which is not turned yellow yet. It will turn yellow probably in December or beginning in January. You'll notice that it will be yellow and beginning to be yellow in the juveniles. They have a very distinctive call compared to the trumpeter, and they're not at all confused trumpeters. So it's a very distinctive call for those Hoopers, and they're rare, but we have one in Whatcom County this year. So mute swans in Washington State, this is the last species of swans, are classified as deleterious wildlife, non-native, meaning they're not supposed to be in the wild anywhere in Washington or even in captivity. But you will occasionally see them because they'll come down from British Columbia where there's a small population. The adult is all white with an orange bill with a black knob at the base here. When they're swimming, legs vary in color from black to orangish pink, but the plumage is all white in the adult. And they typically can carry their wings over their back like this one on the right. It's just a classic thing that they do on the water. If you see a mute swan while out birding or swan watching, please report it to the Swan hotline at 360-466-0515. Mute swan juveniles have a distinctive bill shape with a kind of a pseudo knob here at the base. And then it's kind of a pink orange coloration, but much more brown than gray on the back of them when they're swimming, and they have this kind of long body. They are about the size of a trumpeter swan. So again, here's the brown blotchy patches that you will see on these juvenile mute swans. So here's something, can you find all the species? Hint, snow geese and 3 species of swans are in this picture. This could be something you'll see in the Skagit Valley on a regular basis. Maybe not 3 species of swans, but certainly this configuration where we have, as you're looking at this photo, 2 snow geese, one here in the front and one over here on the left. next to a tundra swan on the left here laying down. And then way over on the right, you'll have two trumpeter swans. You'll have a tundra swan here in the middle, trumpeter swan here. This one is a tundra swan. You can really see this area here. Trumpeter here, trumpeter here, trumpeter here with the V shape on the head. And then here in the middle, we have a swan that is smaller, obviously, than the trumpeters, and a lot of yellow on the lure. This is a Bewick swan, and they occasionally do come into the Skagit. So just make a note that you have trumpeter, tundra, and one Bewick swan. So get out there, go bird watching, and talk to each other and have a good time swan watching. Thank you for watching. So you never know what you'll find. Another one that comes into play here, bent neck swans are something that we see in the Skagit every year now. They have curved necks. They have these weird necks. They have deformities. All of these are deformities. They are not the result of an injury. We don't know why, but it happens. The other one you may see is look to the color of the legs on your trumpeter swans and your tundra swans. The ones that have yellow legs, pale yellow in particular, or bright school bus yellow like this one, or even red, these are leucistic, meaning they were hatched white. They did not go through the gray phase. It is a genetic thing. They are not albinos. They are leucistic. So they are out there in the world, rare, more common in the Rocky Mountain population, but we have seen a few here in the Western Washington area. Snow geese, simple. They weigh about 6 pounds. Their wingspan 3 feet. They all have black wingtips, even the blue phase here. And they fly in very large flocks, typically. So enjoy your differentiation, have fun, and gather round. Thank you for watching.